Yeah.
Maybe. Hi.
No intro.
Banger.
Welcome into a live edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank member FDIC. Our incredible partners in Possible here at KC Sports Network. Clearly having some technical difficulties here. Tucker was trying to get the stream to go live. I just pressed the button and said, let's do it. And
well, hey, you pressed the button ahead of time, but you know what? I think we should go check out the intro real quick.
Welcome into a live edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank member FDIC, our wonderful, amazing partners in Possible here at KC Sports Network. Kent Swanson here with Matthew Lane on a beautiful Monday. And boy, that was the most Monday introduction for a show I've ever seen, Matthew.
Buddy, I've had the most Monday evening anybody has ever had in their life. Okay, listen, I decided, then the family decided that for after the first day of school, mind you, at the kids' brand new school, they get home from school. We're like, hey, we got to go get a new car. And the car that had the color that we want, the dealership is, I don't know, an hour and 15 minutes away. So already not off to a great start, right? But that's okay. We load everybody up and we go out there. And here we are. We're at this dealership. And they go to find our car. The salesperson's his first day on the job, so he says. Not first day, but he's new, brand new. He goes out and looks for the car, comes back in, no car. Goes out to look for it again, no car. Goes and gets help from somebody else, no car. Goes and gets help from a senior salesperson. Comes back in and says, I'm sorry, the car's battery is dead. We're going to have to jump it. Pardon? I'm already a little confused. So they go jump it, and the manager's telling me that a car battery can die if you don't start it for a while. Newsflash, I guess I didn't know that.
What?
But I'm thinking the entire time he's trying to mansplain to me how car batteries work. All I'm thinking in my head this entire time, and I promise we will get to football soon. All I'm thinking about this entire time in my head is, so best case scenario, you're telling me that nobody has come and seen this car for months. This is your best case scenario is you're telling me nobody in the world wants this car, wants to even see this car. Worst case scenario, it has a problem, right? Like that's what's going on here, but fine. We get it jumped. We go to look at this car. I kid you not. This car has never seen a car wash in its life. There is bird poop on there. There is remnants of where the bird poop slid down. There is water streaks from where the same rain has run out from underneath the handles on every door handle. It is the worst kept car I have ever seen at a dealership in my entire life. And so this brand new sales associate is like, hey, maybe I'll get maintenance to clean it up so you can tell what's fixable on the outside and what might be permanent. 10, 15 minutes go by, see him again. Oh, I couldn't find anybody in the back to wash the car.
Did you talk him down?
We were going to try to, but this was taking so long. And we had another hour plus drive back home. And I was like, you know what? Let's just go tell them we're going to leave. So we walk up to the salesperson in front of the manager and say, hey, there's too many warning flags here. We haven't even got to talk to your manager yet about what the wiggle room is on this price right in front of the manager. So we're going to go. Guess how many times a single person tried to stop us from leaving when we said that in front of the manager? Zero. So I made it out that door and back in the car with a great waste of my time and everyone's time. So that's a Monday evening if I've ever heard of one.
Are you willing to share the make and model of this vehicle?
Well, it's a van. It's a hybrid van that is at a dealership that kind of rhymes with Siaka Ika.
Okay. Cool.
And you know, if you're wanting to go to a car dealership and you maybe live in North Carolina, you know, you maybe shouldn't go to one that rhymes with Siaka Ika in like the Wake Forest town, not the college, the town of Wake Forest. Just gonna throw that out there because none of their cars look like they've ever seen a bath.
That's just how I like my nose tackles.
Non-bathed?
Like they've never seen a bath before. They're just gritty, you know. I'm sure Derek Nnadi's bathed. I know that to be true, but he is back with the Kansas City Chiefs, the new not really new, the returning nose tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's back. What were your thoughts on that, Maddie?
He's back. And
All right.
the Chiefs.
Moving
I
on.
mean, the Chiefs needed some run-stopping defensive tackles. Derek Nnadi was apparently available for pickish they acquired from Sky Moore or something like that. I don't know. So he's back. They needed it. The addition of Derek Nnadi makes sense now. I don't know why the Chiefs were under the impression they did not need a run-stopping defensive tackle when they decided not to, sign him in the first place. But it is what it is.
Here's what I don't get. The Chiefs,
A lot.
oh,
When's McCole Hardman coming back? How can a car dealership not wash a car? The questions that will haunt us forever.
I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh no, I remember. If you're trying to go cheap at nose tackle, Derek Nnadi was a league minimum nose tackle in New York. Why didn't you just bring him back? What are we doing here? What are we trying to accomplish? Just run it back.
You don't think did they think Jerry Tillery was going to be a nose tackle? Did they think that they could pack enough weight on the Omar Norman lot and he could be a nose tackle year one? I don't remember when Derek Nnadi signed. But I don't imagine it was day one of free agency.
The Fabian Levette runway.
Right. I just don't know. I don't know what the plan was. It doesn't feel like the Chiefs ever had any young nose tackle even gain any footing during the offseason either. There was never any hype about some, unknown, undrafted free agent, some under the radar nose tackle really making waves. It just never got it. It was never a thing. So I'm a little disappointed that they decided to just go back to the Derek Nnadi well. There's a couple run-stopping defensive tackles that I think are available for probably the same amount of money that you're going to have to pay Derek Nnadi that you didn't have to trade for, but they just went back to the old reliable well. So I get it. I don't love it though.
Yeah, they like familiarity. This team loves their familiarity. There's something about it.
Locked in on that McCole Hardman situation in Green Bay, buddy.
I think everyone else is as well. The car dealership sells you your own car.
I will say the Jets have gotten really good at signing Chiefs players and then trading them for minimal day 3 assets. But apparently that's all you have to do is sign a former Chief and then you can get a
I tweeted out
additional.
They're doing the video game rendition of Spawn Camping. They have just figured out the Chiefs game plan here and they're just cheating the system for free points, free draft picks.
Maddie, will Derek Nnadi be on our 53-man roster prediction here shortly?
Ooh, well, I guess you'll have to hang out for the next 38 minutes and find out.
That's the question, folks. Does he make it? Big questions. We will be breaking down. We predicted the entire 53-man roster. So we will be doing that. Before we do, though, there was a football game. To break down. A lot of fun. The most fun, some are saying. Final thoughts on that game and really just the preseason in general, the training camp preseason, all of that. We're closing the book on that right now. Matthew Lane, any prevailing thoughts for you?
I actually had a question I wanted to start this section off towards you. Are you at all concerned with your favorite QB, Joe Burrow, for the Fraud Goals having to run for his life against another second-team defense?
No.
Okay.
I'm actively rooting for it.
Okay.
Just because I am, have a very transactional relationship with Joe Burrow with fantasy football does not mean that I'm rooting for the success of them. I'm sorry. I will self-sabotage. That is okay.
Okay.
I'm okay with it.
Jackson?
No.
Okay. So in terms of the Chiefs in the preseason,
why do we hold all the AFC? Why do we hold all the quarterback rivals of Patrick Mahomes in our dynasty league?
Because we're smart and we took AFC quarterbacks where the good quarterbacks play.
We just literally took all of them. There's not one rival that we don't have on one of our teams.
Is Lamar a rival?
That's a good point.
Okay, so on to the Chiefs preseason. I think you saw, let's go with the offensive line. I think you saw what you wanted to see. Everybody was getting better as the preseason went on. I would say the Seattle game, actually, for both the young guys on the left side there, Josh Simmons and Kingsley, it was probably their worst game. The Seattle game was their worst showing. I don't think that was great across the board for them. I mean, it was okay. It wasn't like concerning. It kind of was for Kingsley, but it wasn't their best game. But you like to see them rebound and come back for the game that they got to put out the most snaps. They got to show the most stuff. And I think both of them probably played their best game in this final one against the Bears. They got to see some first team defensive linemen, some pass rushers, some quality players, some Montez Sweat, Von Dexter's. Like they got to see some real guys line up across from them. I thought they both played really well. I know a lot of people right now are getting, not a lot, some people are still worried about the way Josh Simmons doesn't strike with his two hands. And it's just, it's getting on my nerves a little bit because like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't, that he doesn't need to like start adding a punch here and there, but you got to like reverse engineer it, right? What's the point of an offensive tackle or an offensive lineman? You're just trying to stay between yourself. You're trying to keep yourself between the rusher and the quarterback, right? And like, how do you do that? And it starts with positioning. Then we're going to go into leverage so you just don't get run through. Then we're probably going to work into timing as in when can you accomplish those things? And like at no point in time is punching anything I just said. The reason you punch is to help yourself establish what space, to help yourself establish your positioning, leverage, or your timing. So if you can accomplish those things without punching, we'll deal with that, right? And I think Simmons is showing that that's how he's going to play for the most part, probably most of the season. And if it becomes an issue, then we can start saying, hey, maybe you get with somebody to work on your striking coming out of your sets. But until it becomes a bigger issue, I want to see people quit complaining about it. So that said, I thought Simmons played his best game. I thought that Kingsley played his best game overall. I think he still has some actual red flags in pass protection, unlike Simmons, who I think just looks really good. I think Kingsley still does have some red flags in pass pro, but it looked better. He was fighting better. He looked to be a little bit more consistent. And that's what you want to see is like the development across the board.
No, that's the biggest thing that, and like probably the only thing that really matters, I think, if you're a Chiefs fan, right? Because that's the biggest area of concern. That is a decent evaluation. I think there's an opportunity to really evaluate that particular position, and some of these other ones we've seen can be a little bit fickle, right? Like especially like defensive side of the ball, the calls matter so much with this team and this defense, and like if they're not in the calls, they're not in the right calls, and they don't care to be all that much in special teams, or not in special teams, in the preseason. Like I don't know, there's some wiggle room there to explain away some things on defense, but offensive line, like I think, like we talked about first game, like there wasn't a ton of true opportunities in that small sample size to really get a good evaluation. But as the postseason or preseason's gone on, we've had a chance to actually get actual pass sets, diversity in the run scheme, getting to see a lot of different things. And that left side, I think I walk into week one feeling comfortable. Specific for sure at left tackle, and I think comfortable enough to give Kingsley an opportunity here over on the left side. I'm not calling for Jalen Moore immediately, I don't think, and let's just see what they've got and then kind of make the decision from there. But I think that was probably 1A, 1B, 1C, 2, 3, 4 in the storylines for the preseason was how that young offensive line was going to break, because like we all know the severity of what happened with the offensive line last season. So like I do think that was a good one. I think the other thing on offense is just seeing the Chiefs push the ball down the field and being intentional and watching where Patrick Mahomes' eyes were all postseason or all preseason, and seeing him just really intentional about trying to move the ball down the field, and then being judicious when he just works down. But I think there was a concerted effort to try to take some shots and try to give some guys some opportunity. And I think you kind of finally saw it culminate with the Tyquan Thornton beautiful deep ball where Mahomes put some air underneath it and let his elite speed receiver just go and make a play underneath it.
Yeah, and you could tell there was a little bit more of a comfort, I think, of him dropping back in the pocket, and he was not only Patrick Mahomes was returning to setting up a little bit deeper than most other quarterbacks. It felt like he was a little bit more comfortable taking those deeper Patrick Mahomes drops. And then when nothing was open, he didn't have to immediately scramble, but rather he could then now slide up a little bit into the pocket or start to look for open space and stuff like that, right? So it just seemed like he just felt more comfortable with the blocking that was in front of him. He felt like he was a little bit more in like his comfort zone. And like we've talked about that, the Chiefs went out and decided to add a bunch of interior offensive line help because they thought that might be what he wants, or that's what they wanted. And it turned out he would much prefer to have better offensive tackles. And I think we can see that in his gameplay. And even early in this preseason, I do think there's a comfort there. it was nice to see some other receivers get involved. I think I'm going to write about Tyquan Thornton later this week at KCSN.com, and just like how I think he kind of made himself like valuable to the Chiefs. Like he made himself too valuable for him to even be like on a roster bubble. Spoiler for the predictions ahead, but like what he does is something that not a lot of other guys to this team do, and it's something that they're going to need. And I think he's shown it a couple times this preseason, even on plays where he didn't get a target. So his ability to stretch the field vertically, actually beat press, and then win vertically, I do think matters a little bit. And it was really nice to see him and Mahomes connect on that one long touchdown. There's a couple other plays that Bailey Zappi missed him on, or Gardner Minshew didn't see him on, that Mahomes probably does and have another chance to make another big play. So I like what I saw out of Thornton, like specifically on how he can stretch the field a little bit.
You're going to wait to write that story until we're 100% sure what the roster looks like, right? Though,
Absolutely not.
Full send. Full send. 2,000 Nnadi Lane words on Tyquan Thornton.
If he does not make this roster, I will draw a picture of him with my fantastic art skills and then eat it.
Okay. No, I think you're right. I just, I don't think he's a bubble player by any stretch, but it's just like, it's not like, I don't know. I think he's wide receiver 6'7", however you want to classify Nico Remigio. Too many spoilers here. Anything on defense? Final preseason thoughts?
No, it's the same thing. The defense is exactly what we thought. Good and bad, right? Chris Jones, really good. Trent McDuffie, really good. Everybody, Nick Bolton, more important than we thought, because they can actually line up when he's on the field. Everybody else, hopefully it works out. I honestly don't have Christian Fulton. We should talk about him actually. I thought Fulton looked generally okay in that game, even rewatching it. Once he got tired, the Bears were throwing at him a lot because he clearly was tired, and his technique was waning a little bit as he got tired. He got a little bit extra handsy as he got tired, and you would expect that. Same thing happened to Jalen Watson last year when he came back from his injury and played in that final game. So I wouldn't read too much into that. I would pay attention to his first few reps when he was going out there and stuff. If you want to go back and watch, I thought he looked pretty good. So having him be your third corner over a Najee Johnson competing with Joshua Williams or something like that, like I felt pretty good about that. But everything else in the defense, I'm still waiting for somebody to make some kind of step that gets me excited on the defensive side, and I don't know if we're going to get it this year.
I think that's kind of where I sit, right? I'm not going to say wasn't uninspired or anything like that. It was just kind of just status quo. Like the whole offseason or the preseason felt very status quo. Watching the games and seeing and just not getting too beat up about anything because Spags is part of that secret sauce and he's not exactly calling a game to try to go beat the Bears in the preseason. But I don't know if there's like a player that outside of the studs that you already know, outside of the known commodities, I don't know if there's just someone that's gonna really elevate the ceiling and floor of this defense, really, right? Like I think you kind of have a decent idea of what a lot of these guys are, and we'll see if a couple of them can get weaponized and take a step. But I don't know. I have my questions about if we're really going to see anything like that. So I don't know if I have a ton on the defensive side of the ball either, but I never do. So
I'm intrigued by what Shamari Connor looks like as a safety with a full opportunity to play and not just in spots. But I didn't see anything that gives me super excited, nor did I see anything from him specifically at safety that makes me concerned either. So it's just interesting. The defense is an interesting spot because I really do feel like they're pretty much the same thing they were yesterday.
I'm going to give Tucker Franklin just a quick second to finish cutting that fingernail that he's working on. We're going to take a break and we'll be back right after this.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
I'm Brett Goodwin, one of the owners of The Learning Tree. The Learning Tree is a neighborhood toy store in Prairie Village, Kansas. This has been here in this location since 2000s, and my husband Alan and I purchased the store in 2023. Alan and I grew up in families where we've always wanted to have a business together. Alan grew up, for instance, his parents had a jewelry store. I worked in a local toy store here in Prairie Village when I was growing up. When this opportunity happened in 2023, we knew right away we wanted to contact them and pursue the store. We wouldn't have been able to get the store without the team at Emprise Bank. From the day we contacted them, they knew what we needed to do, which was very helpful. I would absolutely recommend the team at Emprise Bank to anyone looking to secure a business. We worked with Emprise from day one. They were extremely helpful. They were always great resources. We talked to them frequently. They know the area, they're very friendly, we know who we're going to talk with, and they know what we need to do. We hope we'll see you at the Learning Tree.
What's good, everybody? It is Benny Heiss, KCSN betting analyst, and I just want to let you all know that it's okay. You can take a slow, deep breath. Inhale and breathe out with one word: football. You feeling it? Yeah? Did you take that in? That sweet, sweet scent of grass and pigskin in? I'm ready. I hope you're ready too, because we're going to have an absolutely awesome season once again together. And especially for all of you in the state of Missouri, get your popcorn, get your phones ready, because the wait is almost over. You can taste it. It's coming, people. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is coming. You say, show me. I say state. Later this football season, everything that you love about playing on DraftKings Sportsbook, sides, totals, spreads, props, same-game parlays, you name it, DraftKings Sportsbook is going to elevate your already great game day experience here with KCSN. And even if you don't get in by kickoff, no sweat, besides the promos on DraftKings that they offer as well. There's live in-game betting, payouts, faster than Xavier Worthy hauling down a bomb from 15 on the sidelines, all right from the comfort of your phone, wherever, whenever. You'll be betting with a top-rated sportsbook that is safe, secure, and trusted by millions of Americans across the country. Now, here's what you do. Follow your guy. You download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. Be sure to use code KCSN as you get ready for sports betting to launch here in the state of Missouri. You're going to be the first in line for exclusive promos, can't miss offers, much, much more. It's code KCSN. That is KCSN in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Terms at DraftKings.com/sportsbook. Subject to regulatory licensing requirements.
This whole summer, this whole preseason, it all culminates in the 53-man roster being whittled down here tomorrow. And we are going to do what any good podcast would do. And we're going to predict this 53-man roster before it releases. Maddie and I have gone.
Hold on, Kit. Do you know how close this can be to perfection? We might get to predict this right now, and the Chiefs might not announce their roster until late tomorrow night, which means back-to-back labs can just be farming views about the 53-man roster. It's perfect.
Yeah, the Chiefs are notorious for just waiting. Although I think Bailey Zappi's already gone.
Whoa, spoilers.
And Magdalena. And that might be it. So far.
Dalton Cooper.
That was they might just be trying to be like, hey, let's get him out that early, get him out there early. I think he's like I think he's a practice squatter, but
Hal Presley also.
Or that Hal Presley is who they got rid of.
Sorry, yeah, not Magdalena yet. Don't you put down just because the Jayhawks got lucky doesn't mean you got to put down our Fresno State Bulldogs.
Maddie said the Kansas defense was trash, and then they proceeded to give up like 3 completions the rest of the game after he said that. It was kind of funny.
Listen, it's not my fault that EJ Warner has no offensive line.
He's
dicing him up to start.
Maybe it's because KU might have a decent.
No, it's absolutely not because of that. I can assure you.
We'll find out. Matthew.
We have. Can you move on to the 53-man roster?
Yeah, let's do it. So we worked together and came up with our 53-man roster. There wasn't too much fighting, really, honestly. Like, I think we're pretty close to where we would both be. So, like, we came to a consensus on some of these, but for the most part, we're in pretty lockstep on where we see this thing going. And like, I think there's probably a couple of curveballs that could get thrown in there. And we can talk about a little bit of them and like strategically how this team wants to do this. But let's kick things off. With the core, with the specialists, I guess.
Tucker is so happy right now.
I got you so good. I pranked you so hard.
So
funny. You got to mute for 30 seconds now.
I wish you guys could see how hyped Tucker was. That's because I caught him cutting his fingernails before the ad read. I promise you, that's what that was.
Sorry, I was being.
You think he changed the graphic mid-show during the ad break to get you after you caught him cutting his fingernails?
Yes.
Good.
Would you want to end with specialist? You don't tell me you want to end with specialist. Just
All
get
right,
the-
so specialist.
Yeah, that's a good
No
point.
spoilers.
Thank you, Maddie.
All right.
No spoilers.
The specialist on our 53-man roster prediction, and shout out Joseph Hefner for this incredible tool that he's built to kind of help.
Oh yeah, go to hefeshandiwork.com if you want to make your own 53-man roster prediction. He's also got a lot of other fun tools on there you guys can play around with.
Specialists: Harrison Bucker, Matt Areza, James Winchester. Congratulations.
3 for 3.
Yeah, feeling good about those. Thank you, Tucker. Appreciate that. At quarterback, we've got two: Patrick Mahomes, Gardner Minshew. I think chances of them carrying 3 quarterbacks is absolutely 0. That would be the stunner of the century. But yeah, I think.
Even.
Huh?
Nothing. Continue.
Nothing. Continue. All right. This is where things start getting a little bit interesting, though. Let's look at the tackles.
There's already a little spoiler in there. We have 26 offensive players, as you can see.
I saw that. It's a small little tease there.
Hand up. That one's on me. Sorry, fellas.
I don't think it is. It's right.
There's nothing you can do about that.
At tackle, we're keeping 4. It's Josh Simmons, Jawan Taylor, Wanya Morris, and Jalen Moore. Wanya Morris's name's been thrown around here recently as like a trade target, and I don't know. I just don't know. Like, yeah, like I can see the vision for it, but I'm not entirely sure like how, like who's tackle 4 if they decide to do that. Do you think?
Esapol.
I'm intrigued.
I don't know what the other option is, right? Like, are we? I mean, I guess Chu Godric has gotten the fair amount of run. They've kept him around, but I've watched him play.
Yeah,
and like, if I have to decide between which 2 of those guys, like, I definitely want to be safe. It's the guy that's better with playing less NFL experience, I should say. But I mean, Ethan Driscoll's also a sneaky one. I think in certain situations he's listed at guard, but he's also one to keep in mind. But he's been injured, so I don't know how you bump him over everybody else. So if Morris gets traded, I'd be a little surprised because that does leave them a little bit thin at offensive tackle unless they feel really good about Pohl, Driscoll, or Chu Godric, and just nothing that they've done so far leads us to think that they feel really good.
I'm curious what they do with Ethan Driscoll. I'm curious if he's an IR guy because I think he had like an appendectomy or something like that, and he had to go through all that process. I just wonder if Driscoll's not a guy because like he made the 53-man roster last year and he looked serviceable. He looked more than playable. And I mean, maybe some of the medical stuff might keep him from being able to play immediately, but he's one I think could throw a wrench in some things depending, or at least be like a IR candidate. So like I think Ethan Driscoll's one to pay attention to. All right, moving on. Let's look at. I'm gonna just wait for Tucker to tell me what position we're doing next. Just be careful. We'll do the guards. We've got 3: Mike Caliendo, Trey Smith, Kingsley Suamataia making this roster. I don't think there's really too much of an.
Hey, Tuck, can we also just throw center up at the same time?
That's fine.
We'll just do all the interior offensive line. Yeah,
just some people are going to ask, hey, where's Hunter Norzad? Well, Hunter Norzad we're listing as a center behind Creed Humphrey.
Well, and I wanted to pick this like a bigger picture thing because this is where I think the first like real big talking point is, as one will note when they do their math that Kent famously hates doing on a podcast. There's only 9 offensive linemen, which is a little bit less than what the Chiefs have been keeping recently. And I think that was one of like the first kind of not big swings, but one of the things that when I was looking at this, I was like, I wonder if they go with 9 offensive linemen this year because I think we kind of like they might like, and I think they like the versatility they have, right? If you're making out your best 5, you got those guys. Jalen Moore is your next offensive lineman, I think, at guard or at tackle, like especially if it's a long-term starting spot. I feel like Jalen Moore is up next for either one of those, and I think they feel pretty good with having to slot him in there. And then now you're working out the depth. You're no longer where you were last year, where you have all these question marks and you don't know what you're getting from the depth guys or from starters. This year, it feels like you have a little bit better idea. We've heard them talk up Caliendo, and well, maybe the Super Bowl wasn't his greatest performance. He does have NFL reps. I think you feel like if the tackle plays better next to him, Caliendo could be not serviceable, but like could get you by in spells. And so I wonder if they don't try to skip out a little bit on one of those offensive line spots and save a roster spot for elsewhere that we're about to get to this year. And it feels like they might be situated to do that pretty well.
They've been very intentional recently about like hoarding offensive linemen to make sure nothing happens again. But like, I think they've also most of the time had offensive linemen that justified it for the most part. I mean, we can talk about CJ Hansen, but
well,
I know. But like Driscoll last year, I think Driscoll's I think he's a wild card for me, depending on how they're approaching his situation. Esapole, I think there's an outside chance he's claimed. But I mean, you talk about them and Chu Godric. I think between the three of them, like I think one of those players will probably be back in Kansas City on the practice squad at minimum. So like I think you still might have a little bit of offensive line depth waiting in the wings on the practice squad where you feel comfortable enough to hold up 9 offensive linemen. And like I think you said, that the versatility matters. I think that the versatility matters tremendously when you're looking at how this roster is getting built out. And I think they're going to need it, because there's several other positions that are probably going to need a little bit of extra attention, and we can get into those right here.
Hold on. We got a lot of Esapole questions. I just wanted to go down this road real quick. Do I think he'll get claimed? And you said you think he might. If he's at a risk, if Esapole is at a risk to be claimed, if you're the Chiefs, you're sitting there and you have on good authority that there is a good chance that he gets claimed. No guarantee, but like you feel like the buzz is he might get claimed and you might not be able to get him to your practice squad. Are you willing to go ahead and throw another roster spot into the offensive line to keep him? Has he shown you enough to be worthy of a complete stash job at offensive tackle so far?
I think depends on, well, I think there's a few questions there. It may not be a stash job. It may be it just depends on how you're doing it, man. Because like the Chiefs have the flexibility to IR someone, maybe cut a running back like a Kareem Hunt for a second and bring him right back. Or with like a Bob Tonyan. Like they could pull that lever if they really wanted to try to figure some things out and delay the inevitable, or try to massage the roster if there's some wiggle room they have to put there. Maybe Esapole is a mystery IR guy.
Let's not get into semantics. I'm saying right now, you either have to put him on the roster or there's a 50% chance he gets claimed. What are you doing?
50% chance he gets claimed. I'm
50-50. He gets to your practice squad.
You're letting it ride.
You're going to risk it. You're going to risk it. You're going to do the coin flip. Okay. That's what I was kind of getting to, right? Yeah, I don't know. I think he's looked good. He was always playing against like third stringers, fourth stringers when he was in there, but I thought he looked good. He clearly has some traits that you like and want to work with. So I would like to keep him. I think if it was 50-50, I would probably, as we're going to get to, I would think I would sacrifice a player at one of these upcoming positions and run the odds that they probably don't get picked up before he would. I think he's more likely to get picked up than some of the names we're about to run through, I guess. This is where I would go with it.
This is where I'm not entirely sure. But let's move on. Let's go check this out. Moving on to the wide receiver position, we have 7 being kept. Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jalen Royals, Tyquan, Thornton, and Nico Remigio. 7 wide receivers being kept on the initial 53-man roster. And like, there's definitely one Dave Toub special here on this. Like, it's Nico Remigio. I don't think he showed much offensively to warrant this spot, but it's the return game, and he's a very good returner. That's the value that Nico Remigio provides, and I think the Chiefs are going to value that enough to utilize one of their roster spots. If I were someone that preferred, if I was somebody that was, I would rather have Esapole and protect Esapole potentially than Nico Remigio. But I mean, man, Nico did a really good job in the return game too.
I think Nico's pretty safe. He's your number one returner. I don't think it's close. I don't think we've seen enough from anybody else to even put them in say they're in competition with Nico. He's reliable. He doesn't fair catch the ball too frequently at his own 5-yard line. Like, he just does what he's supposed to do. And then he also has some good returns. And in a pinch, I think he has shown enough ability to be schemed into random spots in the offense that, like, you feel comfortable if he's wide open 5 yards into the flat to throw him a ball and he might come down with it, right? Like, he feels like you can get by there if you have to play him as your 7th wide receiver. So I feel good about that. I think most people feel like 7 wide receivers might sound like a lot, but the Chiefs have kept 7 the last 2 years, right? They've been keeping 7 lately. And this is a year that kind of feels like it, because one, you don't know when Rashee Rice is going to get suspended and for how long. So when you start the year, you might want the guys on the roster already ready. They're going to have to step in to do that. Two, Juju Smith-Schuster is just the leader. He's going to play some, but like he's the leader of that room. He's like the veteran presence. So while he might provide the least like bang for the snap buck out of everybody else, I don't know if they feel comfortable getting rid of like the veteran voice of that room. And then the next part is, hey, Hollywood Brown, maybe he's hurt. Maybe he's not. Maybe he can play. Maybe he can't. We don't even know what he looks like in this offense because we haven't seen it. Right? He gets inserted at the very end of last year. He never really gets to get into the stride of what I think his role is going to be, but we don't even know what that is. So I think the bodies at wide receiver kind of make a lot of sense this year, especially from what we've seen from them all.
Yeah, and Shane is making the comment, this is because of the suspension that there's 7 wide receivers, right? And I don't think that's the case. I think there's 7 wide receivers because Nico Remigio has firmly secured that return man spot. And it's not suspension dependent that I think this team's keeping 7. I think Tyquan Thornton's played himself onto this roster is what's happened. And that's throwing a wrench in things where maybe they would have thought 6, but Tyquan Thornton, I think, has ascended to a spot where he's earned it. And if you're looking at, would I rather have Tyquan Thornton or Esapol on this roster? I'd rather have Tyquan Thornton. You know, I think there's a potential role here. Maddie talks about the sacrificial X all the time. And like, that's your sacrificial X right there. That actually has some ability down the field. Like he's shown the ability to play a little bit of X. He's 10 pounds heavier than he was at New England. Like I think 7, I think there's 7 rosterables if you are giving Dave Tobe essentially one of those roster spots on the 53. So I think
Thornton in particular, like, and this is why I want to write about him kind of is like, he made himself valuable because one, last year, how many I don't know the number yet. Like I got to look it up still, but like the deep ball, I remember looking at it earlier. Xavier Worthy had a crazy amount of the deep shot targets percentage of this offense. And number 2 was Justin Watson. Those are your 2 deep threats. Worthy wasn't very efficient in them. And like, yeah, he's still going to do some, but you don't want to lead. You don't want to have you don't want to be the team that has one player leading the league and the percentage of your team's deep shots. So having Thornton to go out there and replace Watson's vertical ability and then also take some of that off the plate of Xavier Worthy makes a ton of sense. And we've already seen that realized early on in like these preseason games against the Bears. And then a couple of other plays where he gets open against Seattle or against Arizona to start the preseason. And then you think about Hollywood Brown and what they did with him. It was protecting him off the line of scrimmage and then using his speed on outbreaking or like, slant type routes. We've seen Tyquan Thornton do those exact same things already. So it just feels like he's kind of put himself in a spot where he's going to replace what MVS used to be for this team, the vertical guy that plays on the outside, but he's also situating himself like, hey, if Hollywood Brown goes down again, you don't have to force somebody else into that role. We have somebody else that can step in with a similar skill set, both very fast guys, like, right? So I think he's done a good job of playing himself into this roster. And I think that was decided a long time ago, if I'm being honest.
Let's move on. Let's move on to the next position.
I guess. My bad.
All that's left is tight end and running back. And
these are the hard ones.
I think these are the tough ones. So moving to tight ends, this one is very tough. This is very tough. Travis Kelce, Noah Gray, Robert Tonyan, and Jared Wiley making the roster on the initial prediction. 4 tight ends on the roster. Boy, howdy, man. I think it's tough because I think Bob Tonyan's looked good. I think Bob Tonyan's played well, and I think he deserves to be on this roster. And then you look at Jared Wiley, where Jared Wiley is a highly touted 4th-round pick coming off of a big injury, and I don't think the Chiefs want to move on from him, and I don't know if they want to risk putting a 4th-round pick so quickly onto the waiver wire.
Yeah, this is the one that I had trouble with. If I thought it was 50-50 that Esapol was going to get picked, I would definitely let Wiley go and risk he makes the practice squad, even if it was one. I think teams would be more likely to pick up Esapol than Jared Wiley at this point. But 2, even if both were 50-50, I'm keeping the tackle over the tight end. That's a no-brainer to me. So this is the one where it was a little trickier for me. I kept Jared Wiley over Pohl because they seem to be giving Wiley opportunities. I do know that there was some excitement for him going into last year. He's coming back from the injury. He clearly doesn't look to be the same athlete right now. There's just some plays where he's running crossers and he's just not moving, at the same pace as he did before, but that could be coming from recovery. So yeah, I have Wiley as probably my 53rd man making this entire roster as we go through. I think he is my very final guy. And the problem is like, he just doesn't bring enough for the blocking game. When you have Travis Kelce and Noah Gray, I mean, Tanyan, I think, is the spot because of those guys. He's the most likely to come out and probably make a good block in line. But like Wiley just adds nothing as a blocker. And if he's not moving like the athlete that he was coming out, I don't know what the significant benefit he is providing compared to the other guys.
These are like all, I think just roster construction is at a all-time challenge here for this team. And I think tight end's one of the places that it shows it, right? Because you need good inline blocking, and Bob Tonyan can do that. Jared Wiley's not providing that. Do you want to give up on Jared Wiley? Like, that's a tough question that you have to ask, because like you need certain components for your offense that Jared Wiley maybe isn't the best at providing, and Bob Tonyan absolutely is. And so like I think these are where the wrenches get thrown and making some difficult choices. Which is why 26 got kept on the roster. So that if you're doing the head math in your car or while you're watching us, I think you can figure out how many running backs that we have being kept here. And it's 4. Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt,
Mr.
Carson Steele, and Brashard Smith. I think this is also like a question of like roles / components being needed to build an offense that, Carson Steele makes the roster. Like, I think he might be the 53rd man.
Yeah. So the Carson Steele one's tricky because I think a lot of fans are going to want him to go bye-bye. And I get it because he's not the most exciting running back. He's got some same vision, patience issues the other guys have in front of him, but he's also not been as productive. But Andy Reid went exactly 1 year without a fullback, and that was 2023. And what did he do? They went and signed a 235-pound running back the next year named Carson Steele. And what did they do? They immediately tried to make him a fullback until they suffered a bunch of running back injuries. If you cut Carson Steele, who is currently the fullback available that like knows the system, that's been around for a little bit. And I get it. They don't run a lot of 21 personnel. They don't run a lot of fullback, but every time they get to 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, Carson Steele's coming out there. And while they might not ever use him as a lead back, he is going to go out there. And all you have to do is let him do it once, and then teams have to respect it. So I went back to Andy's, what he does, and he keeps a fullback for those exact reasons. And it might only be one play a game. One game, it might be like 4 plays because they get in a lot of 3rd or 4th and shorts. But there's no substitute for that, right? You can throw 2 halfbacks back there, but nobody's going to believe Brashard Smith is going to ever lead block. So the linebacker to his side is only tracking him. Nobody's ever worried about him coming across as a lead blocker, right? And so I do think until Andy truly bucks the trend, I'm going to continue to lean on they're going to get a fullback.
A lot of commentary about Kareem Hunt just being the fullback in these situations. I think we've seen a couple people making that comment. Kareem is the short yardage package, as Jackie Moon says, but he's the short yardage back, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's the fullback. I get where if you're trying to create a distinction between the two, like, I don't think Kareem is a fullback. I think he's a run behind a fullback kind of player. I don't think he's a good lead blocker right now at this point. And just because he's bigger doesn't mean he's as good at.
Does he even get to the hole fast enough to be a lead blocker?
It's a great question. Leo Chenal is a fullback, some are saying.
I'm into it. And if we see that, that's fine. Right? If you present me with a realistic option, I'm okay having the Carson Steele conversation on or off. It's just right now, all we have, and I do know they did put Leo Chenal back there once or twice in the goal line last year, but in terms of
gotten a 4-point stance,
actually being a fullback, like a lead blocker on those plays, especially to the point to where they're going to think that you might take the fullback dive or that you might be the lead blocker, do either or. I don't think anyone's handing Leo Chenal the ball for that play. And so it's just, until we see something different, I just don't know if I buy it. I'm okay with switching it out for a different fullback if we get one. Before we move on to defense, I just want to ask you, Essapol, Jared Wiley, Carson Steele. You get to keep 2 and one's got to go. Goes to another team for sure. I mean, this is our roster, so I think it's pretty clear who we have on the outside. But if I told you the other one of those is whoever you cut out of those 3 is definitely gone, who's gone?
If I get to pick, probably if I get to pick and not predict, I think I would go. I think I'd go Essa and Wiley. I think
You
I'd
keep
go
those
Essa.
two.
I
Yeah.
keep those two just because. And like I love Carson Steele. It's just narrow role, and
get it.
I don't know. I would figure something out at the fullback position. I would.
I'd
Figure
keep
something
Steele.
out.
I'd keep Steele and Pull. I think Wiley be the odd man out for me on that because I don't know if there's a big gap between what Wiley's going to give you even when healthy and what Jake Brenningstool can give you when he comes back to healthy. And like we haven't even addressed him. He might be gone too, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I right now I'm a little more wait and see on Wiley than the others. I can at least have a path for where I see Essapol mattering going forward, and there's a path to see how Carson Steele like actively matters this year. Whereas I don't know if I see either one of those with Wiley right now.
So Brenningstool and Driscoll are two players I'm paying attention to when it comes to like how they utilize the IR spots. Like, are they ready to shut things? Because like I don't know, Jake Brenningstool's gotten enough of a offseason to justify like getting to play in real NFL games this year. So maybe it's, but you would think that they would have put him on a season ending by now, right? So what's the move there, right? Like what's the move there? I think that's going to be interesting. But I think those are two players that could occupy our spots, and then you're gonna have to get a little bit more creative. But yeah, 26 offensive players, and it's just out of like I think decisions are being made on the field for some of these players. Shout out Tyquan Thornton for making it even more difficult. All right, let's move on to the defensive side of the ball. Let's check it out at edge. We have 4. It's George Karlaftis, Mike Dana, Charles Omenihu, and Ashton Gelati. You're probably a little bit surprised to not see a 5th edge here, especially knowing how much the Kansas City Chiefs like to use edges. But when you are roster crunching and you're trying to make some of these pieces fit and you're trying to, protect some of your assets here, like a Jared Wiley, you got to make some decisions. And I think the one name that might be missing here potentially is Malik Herring. That's one of the few, conversations that we really had going back and forth was, all right, Maddie, where's Malik Herring on your initial 53-man roster? Because that's the big question I have. And what was your answer, Matthew?
He's like player 55. I think he's more likely to make it to the practice squad than the other players that like we were comparing him. Like even going back to that offensive side, Carson Steele, Jared Wiley, Essapol, like, those guys are kind of like all there. I think Herring of that bunch is probably my safest to make it to the practice squad. One, he's kind of been around that way in a while. He's not gotten any significant playing time, I think, to bump him out of that role. So if the Chiefs ever need to go back to that, well, they can. And generally speaking, like the reason I settled on 4 is Chris Jones is going to play a fair amount of defensive end on pass rushing downs anyway. Like they can flex him out there. So he kind of makes it like 4.5 edge rushers, right? Like he counts as a little bit in that regard. And I think you're going to see that more this year. So that's why I felt a little more comfortable going lighter at this position. And Felix getting hurt matters for this, right? I think he was going to make the roster if he doesn't get hurt. But he does. And so like now you have to figure out how you're going to replace him. And I just don't know if they're going to do it with another edge player.
Yep. So I think that's a decision that gets made, and that's one of the sacrifices that happens here is 4 edges, and you're hoping Malik Herring's back into the mix on the practice squad because I think he's a quality 5th edge for you at this point. All right, moving on. Let's go check out the defensive tackles. Maybe. Tucker, you're just going in all kinds of order. Look at this. Defensive tackles. We have 5 defensive tackles sticking around. Chris Jones, Mike Pennell, Jerry Tillery, Omar Norman-Lott, and yes, folks, Derek Nnadi has made the 53-man roster after being traded today. So 5 defensive tackles here. You're getting a little bit of versatility and depth for this interior group by adding Derek Nnadi. You've got more nose tackle type players. Do you think if Omar Norman-Lott has an entirely healthy offseason, they still grab or preseason that they still grab Derek Nnadi?
Yes, because I don't know if I fully trust that the Omar Norman-Lott run stuffing one tech was ever going to pan out. I don't know if it was ever going to work. They tried. I get why they tried it. I don't think it's a bad idea long term. I just don't think you can go from the Tennessee Volunteers don't want you to play rundowns to you're going to play rundowns in the NFL in one offseason, especially when you dealt with injuries like coming out of college. Not even talking about the NFL injuries, but like coming out of the college process. So I think that they were always going to add another run stuffer similar to defensive ends. It says 5. This is 4.5 because Chris Jones is going to play some defensive end. So like It's under 10. I think the Chiefs usually like to keep 10 defensive linemen, and I don't love going light for what I think is a positional kind of weakness for this team. But look who we left off. Who are you making a case for? Who in the world are you really pounding? I like Malik Herring. I think Malik Herring is a perfect number 5, 6 defensive end because he can play a little inside, a little outside. He's not great, but he can eat snaps if you have some injuries and you need him to. But like, am I really using a roster spot for that? I don't know. So like, it's not so much that I wanted to go light on the defensive line. I just ran out of names that I even like wanted to put up there.
It's easier to find 26 offensive players than it is to find 25 defensive players, right? And so like I think that's part of it, right? Like normally you would be more edge heavy and tackle light. Like that when the Chiefs are composing their defensive end room, they're normally flipping that. It's a 5-4, it's a 6-4, 6 edges, 5 edges, and 4 defensive tackles. This year, I think looking at like the bodies that they have on the roster, I think it makes more sense to flip that this year for the first time. Even though Spags loves his edge rushers and loves to kick his edge rushers inside, and so you need a lot more of them. It's just finding them ones that are, worth it. I think it's tricky. I think it's tricky this year. So
we got this question real quick from Jackie. We think Tillery plays edge at all? I know he has in the past, but they didn't even show that during the preseason once. I think similar to Omar Norman-Lott, I think they actually had him add a little bit of weight too, to be a little bit more stout. So I don't expect it. Will he occasionally in a package when they want to put a defensive end inside of him to threaten to run a stunt or a game? Maybe, but I don't think he's going to do the Chris Jones thing where he just straight up lines up at defensive end and rushes.
I agree. But yeah, we'll see how like maybe they move some around some guys and deploy them a little bit differently. But I don't know. It's a wonk. I will say like just this is a weird one to put together this year. I think it's a little bit different because like I think
it's pretty straightforward defensively. I think it's pretty straightforward.
I just been across the board like because like
just
breaking. I think it breaks some norms for the Chiefs. Like, and that's what's throwing me off a little bit, right? Is like breaking some norms and like it's an unbalanced roster from an offense defense perspective. But I think it's tricky. All right, Tucker said the rest of this is like in the most logical order. So we're gonna move on to the linebackers. Yes, boom. Love it. 5 linebackers: Drew Tranquil, Nick Bolton, Leo Chenal, Jack Cochran, and Jeffrey Bassa are your 5 linebackers. I know I've seen some people clamoring for like a 6th. I don't know if I see a 6th right now. I know Cole McDonald's pushed some people here a little bit, but like Maddie talked a little bit about like a very niche role, quality special teams player, and did a lot of fun things on the field. But like as a niche Sam linebacker, most likely, like I think it's tough to keep 2 of them. I don't think there's too many surprises. Jack Cochran is a big favorite of Dave Toub.
Yeah. Well, it's not just Dave Toub. He's the only other guy that they have trying to play like Mike, right? Like Drew Tranquil will obviously take over if Nick Bolton's gone long-term, but like if Nick Bolton gets hurt in a game, they don't move Drew over immediately. At least they haven't in the past. They've put Jack Cochran in and let Drew continue his same role. Maybe that changes this year and he's a little bit more like volatile in his roster spot than I'm thinking because of that, which is possible. Drew's been around a little bit longer now. He might have a better grasp of the system. It's just then who replaces Drew's role, right? Is Leo taking on a bigger role? So maybe they do have a different shuffling of it right now. We just haven't seen it yet. They seem to want to play Jack Cochran a lot. Listen, if it was up to me, Cam Jones makes it over Jack Cochran and Drew Tranquil is just your backup Mike and Cam Jones comes in and plays and him and Leo Chenal play together. I hate leaving Cam Jones off this list. I think he's a better player than Jack Cochran, but I don't think the Chiefs do, specifically when you include the ability to make calls. I don't see a good case for 6 linebackers because the defensive line room is so much worse than the linebacker room and the secondary is worse than the linebacker room. Yeah. So like, it's really hard to continue to add more linebackers to the depth when I think you might need that depth. You might need the bigger rotation at the other 2 spots.
Where things get weird is always weird. It's special teams. Yep. That's
all these guys we've said have played special teams. They've all made plays. Like Cam Jones has been a good, like a very plentiful and good special teams player. So is Jack Cochran. I don't know about Cole Christensen's played actually a lot of special teams too when he's been on the 53-man roster, but like he's usually a guy that's getting called up. I think so. Yeah, weird spot.
All right, moving on to the safety room. Shamari Connor, Brian Cook, Jaden Hicks, Mike Edwards, and Chris Roland Wallace making the roster. And if I'm being candid with you, we talked a little bit about like, hey, like, I don't know about I don't know about Malik Harry making this roster. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how I feel about Jared Wiley making this roster. I don't really know how I feel about Mike Edwards making this roster. But you look at the totality of this safety room, and you look at the lack of options behind them. They don't have anybody.
Yeah, I mean,
Are you trying to use your words carefully here? Like, where's this going?
No,
I
didn't think you were preparing a question, and then you did, so I wasn't really paying attention to what you said. So I'm trying to piece together what you were saying when you asked me a question. Oh no, I thought you were just telling your point. I didn't know we were getting to a question at this point in time. So for the safety room, Mike Edwards is a tricky one. I don't know how I feel about Mike Edwards on this roster either. I feel like he's, especially if we're going to count, and I saw this in the comments too, Chris Roland Wallace being listed as a safety. He's played a lot of safety that can also roll down to the nickel, into the slot. And so like, I can see how that makes Mike Edwards a little bit more expendable. I also see the Chiefs going out there and saying, hey, Jaden Hicks hasn't played a lot of reps, and he's now in line for a lot of reps. Chris Roland Wallace hasn't played a lot of reps, and now he's in line for a lot of reps. Keeping a veteran voice on the back end of that safety room who has been with the Chiefs, albeit only for a short time, might be worth keeping around. He might be worth a guy having around. I think Mike Edwards is very willing to play special teams. At least he has been in the past. So I don't think it's like a lock that he's on the roster. I also look around this entire secondary and say, man, I can see an avenue where maybe Hicks isn't quite as good as we want. Maybe Chris Roland Wallace isn't at safety as good as what we think he might be. Maybe Brian Cook or Chamari Connor don't make the steps we want. And now all of a sudden they just need somebody who can make sure guys are in the right spot and doing the right things. And that's probably Mike Edwards over anybody else.
So this is where I think the question matters is, do you see a defensive role for him on game day? Yes or no?
Yes, because I don't know if Chris Roland Wallace suits up on the actual game days. He might be one of the guys that's like in and out of suiting up or not suiting up, and he might not suit up until there's an injury. But his ability to play both, I think, is valuable.
I think Chris Roland Wallace suits up on game day because of special teams too, because they're going to need more safeties to play on special teams if they're
down for that.
5 linebackers. The only reason I say that is like I could also see Mike Edwards being a little bit of a Deion Bush type where you can comfortably get him onto the practice squad because you built that relationship with him. He tried to go to greener pastures and got paid a little bit by the Buffalo Bills, and that didn't go well. So maybe there's an option there to keep him around, keep him in the room, see how things are going, elevate him if you just don't feel comfortable with what's going on in your safety room, and then eventually put him onto the 53-man roster if you have to. So like, there might be a little wiggle room there for this. You know, if they want to add Malik Herring over a Mike Edwards, I'll hear it, I guess is what I'm saying. Like if they feel more comfortable there, but like, I think there's some flexibility there with Mike Edwards because he's a veteran. He's a vested veteran and all that stuff. So like, that's one player I could see them maybe just squatting and calling it a day. But for now, we have him on the 53-man roster. All right, moving on to the cornerback position. This is the last group. It's 5. Trent McDuffie, Christian Fulton, Jalen Watson, Nazeeh Johnson, Noel Williams. But what, Matt, where's Josh Williams at? Where'd he go? Where is he?
Wherever Dave Merritt and Steve Spagnuolo left him in the fourth quarter of a preseason game for like 2 drives.
On the plane with Chicago.
I don't know. I look at this corner room, and this is where I think Roland Wallace, I guess, like has a little bit more of an avenue to maybe he does suit up for games and stuff, and like why I think he's valuable. I know he's going to be listed and should be like being considered a safety and whatnot, but like if your injury is to a guy that plays in the slot, Noel Williams is in a slot corner. Nazeeh Johnson's like flirted around playing in there, but I don't think that they like playing him in the slot a ton. So like if you have a singular injury to somebody that plays in the slot, whether that's a Chamari Connor or God forbid a Trent McDuffie situation, you just need another slot corner in some kind at some point in time, or a safety injury and Chamari Connor has to stay at safety. Roland Wallace has like the clearest path to impact him there. And I look at this corner room and we're Watson, Fulton, Trent McDuffie all together. That's okay as starters until you start to account for injuries. I don't love the depth behind it. I don't necessarily want Nazeeh Johnson to play. I don't think I want to see Noel Williams this year based on what we've seen. So like, that's why we go down to 5 instead of 6 corners here. I don't think Josh Williams changes that. I thought it was also, again, pretty straightforward.
I'm curious if Josh Williams gets dealt before the.
Sure.
I could see a little conditional pick going to the Miami Dolphins who have no corners. Just saying.
The Miami Dolphins just cut Mike Hilton, who I don't know what their rationale is behind it, right? But like, he's not as good as he once was. But I feel like Mike Hilton, even last year, would be a better slot corner than anybody not named Trent McDuffie. The Chiefs trotted out there, so I thought that was a very interesting move by the Dolphins.
Father time comes for everyone, man. That's all I gotta say. But that is our final 53-man roster prediction. We won't go through the entirety of the names again, but that is kind of where we have things.
I think Tuck has a whole graphic.
Do you? Yeah. There's the edge group or the
I lied to you guys.
Line group. Yep. You can see a quick view of the defensive line group, and then or the defensive group. If you want to see the offensive group, you can check that out as well, real quick. Any questions? Refer them to Tucker D. Franklin. I know I feel like we kind of discussed bubble players as we were going to, right? Like I know we were,
and who was left off. Honestly, we kind of did. Both
I think they kind of stuck in there. But before we get out of here, I did want to just talk to you a little bit. Some of the players that you really want to see on the practice squad. So who are some players that you really do want to see on the practice squad here? I've got several names.
I mean, like I'm going to be very sad if the Chiefs lose out on Essapol. Like I said, I think if it's even 50-50 that he doesn't make your practice squad based on the information you have, then you let somebody else go. A Wiley, a Steele. I'm going to figure it out later. So he's probably number one with a bullet for me. I want Drake Brittingstool to stay around. I heard that, there was a little bit of hype for him coming out of the rookie camp stuff. Watching him at Clemson, it's like, yeah, I don't think he's going to be great, but I could see a role for him. So I wouldn't mind seeing him stay around. Scrolling through here. Honestly, after that, cool. Keep Cooper McDonald around. He's a fun backup Sam. That's all I got.
Brittingstool and Driscoll, I'm very fascinated to see what happens with them. Like, do they go IR and they're technically on the roster? Like, what are we doing there? Or is he just they trying to pass him onto the practice squad? Essapol, absolutely. Cole McDonald, Malik Herring, I think is a must because I think they're going to need to pull from that depth sooner rather than later. And then a couple of other names that I'd like to see. Dalton Cooper. I think he did some good things in the limited reps that we've seen from him. So I'd like to see him back on the practice squad. Brandon George, the freakish linebacker from Pittsburgh, I think could be a potential special teams contributor. So that's another one. And then Glendon Miller, the safety. So I think those are a few players that I would just pay attention to, like to see the Chiefs potentially, try to keep around. So that's kind of the list. But that's
weird buckets because there's some vet guys Driscoll is kind of a weird one that's not clown. But there's some vet guys like a Herring or a Cam Jones who I do like, right? Like if you get them on your practice squad because you think you might need them throughout the year, you feel good about that. So those guys, I guess I put in a different category, but you really do want them back. It was the young guys I was intrigued by. Jason Brownlee. A little bit older. He's a little older than I thought, though. For some reason, I thought he was still younger. He's been around the league for a minute, and it just hasn't fully clicked. So I have a little bit less hope now that I've seen that he's been in the league for a handful.
He's 27.
Yeah, and it's not even this 27. It's just he's been around the league and it hasn't clicked, right? He's been in the league for a handful of years. It's not like he's a second or third year guy. So that does change. I think the outlook of where you are with him. But I wouldn't mind him staying around. I'll never quit Elijah Badger, even though I don't even know if he played a single snap in the preseason.
He did. He's got a catch, man.
That's probably the game I was asleep. Players left off. Just going to hit this real quick because we didn't say it at all. Elijah Mitchell. We didn't even have a conversation about him being left off this at running back.
Best of luck.
He didn't even look bad. He didn't look bad in terms of he looks like the injury zapped him of anything. He just also never stood out. And at least Brashard Smith had the catch, had a nice route. And when they on that final game, they said, "Here, Brashard, let's give you some opportunities to see if you really stand out." Elijah Mitchell never really got that. And then when he did get those reps in the second and third team offenses, it just never anything popped. So I kind of feel like the time just ran out on him.
And I don't know if he looked quite as explosive.
But he didn't look. I don't think he looked washed. He wasn't moving like Jared Wiley.
No, he didn't look washed. But
I'm sorry. I'm getting yelled at by the TCU fans in the chat for my Wiley.
Yeah, how quickly you turn away from your frogs. That's all I got.
He's also a Longhorn. Hook 'em.
We will wait on bated breath to find out what the results of the Chiefs 53-man roster is tomorrow. It is going to be a lot of fun. That was our prediction, and that is going to do it for this episode of the KC Laboratory. Thank you all so much for listening, watching, supporting. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll catch you later.
If you run a car dealership, don't let the battery in a hybrid car die, please.
Siaki Ika.